Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Please give a few seconds for folks to come in from the waiting room. All right, let's begin. Well, good morning and welcome to the March 26th Community of Practice meeting, where we aim to foster alignment, coordination, and a collaboration within the statewide digital equity ecosystem. On behalf of the state of California and the Department of Technology, we thank you for being here. Please use the chat box to share your name, job title, and affiliated organization as more folks are coming in. And before we start, a few housekeeping items. Next slide, please. Presenters, please cue Ricky to advance your slides. For viewers, select side-by-side speaker mode for the best viewing experience when slides are shared and for visibility of our ASL interpreters. We have seen requests for closed captioning in our pre-registration questions, so I want to take some time to remind folks that closed captioning is available by selecting CC closed caption on your toolbar and then select show subtitle. If you cannot find it, please click the icon with 3 dots for more options. Please note there is time allocated for questions. Use the Q&A box to type your questions related to that portion of the agenda while the speaker is presenting. Use the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 if you are calling in by phone. Our team will request that you come off mute in video. Feel free to turn on your mic and camera at that time. Chat will be off while the presenters are speaking so that no questions are lost in the chat. Chat will be available when prompted. As you've seen, this meeting is being recorded. We will be posting the recording, slides, and transcripts of this meeting to the Broadband for All portal. So please use the QR code listed on your screen or click on the link in the chat to access the post-meeting materials from this event. Because of this, AI note-taking bots are not permitted and will be removed from the meeting. Next, I would like to introduce Deputy Director Scott Adams to provide some welcoming remarks and review our agenda. Scott?
Thank you, Ann, and good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Adams, Deputy Director of the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy at the Department of Technology, and just want to echo Ann's thanks for all of you for your partnership, for your commitment to our shared goals of achieving digital equity here in the state of California and broadband for all. And very glad to have you here at the March Community of Practice. Next slide, please. Wanted to just reiterate for folks that while there are 3 goals for Broadband for All that are carried over into the state digital equity plan, that goal 1 largely focuses on infrastructure, and while the state has invested billions of dollars in the middle mile broadband initiative and additional funding through the Public Utilities Commission for last mile infrastructure programs, that the focus of this community of practice is on goals 2 and 3, which are that all Californians have access to affordable broadband and necessary devices, and that all Californians can access training and support to enable digital inclusion. Next slide, please. So just wanted to also kind of go over meeting norms. Because this is a community of practice, is not a webinar, we don't want to control or moderate much of the conversation. We want to encourage really bi-directional back and forth between us and you, our partners. So because of that, we just wanted to say some baseline understandings here, that only questions and comments on agenda items can be addressed. The chat will be monitored, but only to ensure that there are no disruptive behaviors. Disruptive behaviors will not be tolerated, and don't think it's going to be a problem, but if those are observed, individuals will be removed from the meeting. Thank you. Next slide. This really brings us to the meat of it. I hope you guys are enjoying hearing less of me as these meetings involve. That's um, our goal here to just further create a space where we're bringing subject matter experts and others who are doing great work. And we've tried to fashion our agenda based on your input. So, first on the agenda is going to be the California Lifeline Broadband Pilot Program. I know we're all really eager to support that as it gets going to address affordability. After that, we've got two really great guest speakers. We wanted to have a theme for today's meeting be state innovations that could potentially address some of the issues that were unearthed during the digital equity planning, which is access to government benefits and other services. And then also data privacy, which is obviously a big deal. So the California Identity Program and the Delete Request Opt-out platform, you'll hear from folks on that. Here's some exciting news based on your contributions and input. We're launching the enhanced version of the Digital Equity Resource Finder, and then at your request, our team is going to provide a brief update on the status of the request for innovative ideas and other funding opportunities that may be out there. And then Anne's going to close with looking ahead. So I thank you all very much for being here. Look forward to a wonderful community of practice. And Anne, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Scott. And quickly, I would like to introduce Loy Nguyen from the California Public Utilities Commission to provide updates on the California Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot Program. Over to you, Loy.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to be back to provide updates on the California Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot Program. Next slide, please. As of today, we have not received any additional advice letter. So in total, we received 16, approved 15. One is under pending review. We're happy to announce that Comcast have joined Bright House, Charter, and Time Warner in completing their onboarding and system testing, and they are all now enrolling customers. Next slide, please. And this is great news. As of March 17th, we updated the provider search function, and it's now available to consumers to use it, enter their zip code, and find approved broadband provider in their area. And next slide, please. We received some questions from registrants, and so we'll answer these questions. And Lisa, if you can join me and answer the first two bullets, and we.
Sounds great. Thank you, Loy. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Anthony, and I work with Loy at the CPUC on the Lifeline program. So I'm going to address a couple of these questions, and Loy will take the last one. The first question we received was if residents are receiving assistance for their landline, are they still eligible for Lifeline home broadband? So I'm going to break this up a little bit because technically, are they eligible for current Lifeline? They're already receiving their service. Then yes, they're eligible for the broadband pilot because the eligibility guidelines are the same. However, there's only one service per household available. So if they're already receiving wireline or wireless services under Lifeline, then they wouldn't be able to also get the broadband pilot service. The only exception to that one per household is for a TTY device, a text telephone device, where they can send and receive information over a telephone line in text and graphic forms. But what I will say is if an individual is currently receiving their Lifeline service already, whether wireline or wireless services, they may choose to transfer their service to the broadband pilot if they prefer. So that option is there that they can transfer to the broadband pilot if they would like to do so. The second question we got was around the fact that many individuals that are on this call are, one, raising awareness of the broadband pilot benefit, and two, supporting residents with enrollment. So first, let me just say thank you so much for your partnership. We really appreciate everything you do. And we understand that it would be helpful for you to know which providers offer the service, which plans, where, how individuals can enroll, what that process looks like. So I will start by saying Loy shared a print screen of the California Lifeline website. That is the easiest and fastest way to learn who the approved providers are that are already onboarded in any area. So if you go to californialifeline.com and click on provider search, you can input a zip code and a list of approved providers and their plans will come up in that area. And you can compare plans, get side-by-side views to determine which provider is best for you. And I would say if you've already done that and you've entered a zip code and you are not seeing a service provider in a certain area, please keep checking back, because you saw that list that Loy showed that showed 15 approved providers, and there's clearly not 15 that have completed their onboarding yet. So we're still working with some providers to get through the testing, syncing their systems. But as soon as that happens and they complete enrollment, then they will be added. So we really anticipate over the coming weeks that you will see other providers and you'll have more options there. So just keep checking that. To begin an enrollment, once an individual is able to identify a provider in their area that they would like to select, they would start the enrollment process by contacting that service provider. The provider is the one that will help them in completing their application and getting that onboarding process started for them. The only thing I do want to note, though, is in that application process, the individual will need to provide an email address, and that does require action from them. So as our TPA is processing their application, they send an email to the individual at whatever email address they provided their service provider, and they will need to verify that email address, because that's where they're going to get all of their notifications for the program. So that's just one important aspect I wanted to raise. But I think that covers the second one. So Loy, I will volley back to you for the third.
Thanks, Lisa. Great information there. Okay, for the final question, it had part of the Verizon Frontier merger settlement required Verizon to participate in this program. Can you share anything about it? The commission issued decision 2601023. That was in regards to the merger between Verizon and Frontier. Now, in the decision itself, it stated that Verizon and Frontier shall continue to offer California Lifeline throughout Verizon and Frontier's service territory for a period of 16 years or until November 22, 2041. So that is the information that I can share with you all. But if you're interested, the decision is 2601023 for anyone that's interested. And I think that is all the questions that we receive. And I'll hand it back to Ann if there are other questions out there.
Thank you so much, Loy and Lisa, for answering our pre-registration questions. I know that we already have a question in the Q&A box, so I'll read that shortly, but I wanted to remind you.
Let me jump in here real quick, okay? Thanks. I think, thank you, Loy and Lisa, for continuing to make yourself available here, because we know this is an evolving process. So I think a broader question that we wanted to ask that may address the first question is, so initially there was a period where providers could submit advice letters, and then CPUC would how long is that period open? Like, is it rolling? Is it in perpetuity, or was there a deadline?
So the advice letter is a 30-day period for the commission to act upon. So within that 30-day period, there's a 20-day protest period. So by the 30-day, if additional information is needed, uh, then we can suspend the advice letter up to 120 days for the first suspension. So what we've been doing is, of course, as soon as we receive the advice letter, we work with the provider to ensure all the information that they provided we have that's needed to make a decision on to whether to approve um, the advice letter or not. So 30 days, if additional time is needed, then we can suspend it up to 120 days in the initial
Got it.
suspension.
Okay. And so I think this goes to the question Mr. Hackett asked in the Q&A. So they're an independent ISP and they would love to participate in the Lifeline broadband pilot program. Can they, what steps would they take to participate? Are they still able to submit an advice letter?
Sure. So in the decision, a provider that receive a commission issued CPCN or WIR can submit an advice letter to participate. However, if you do not have a CPCN or WIR, you would need to get one. In the resolution that I discussed, I think last month, in resolution T17093, I believe, the commission approved that for local agencies to participate. So if you are an ISP without a CPN or WIR, then you would need a commission issue CPN or WIR.
Got it. And I know that some folks are newcomers here. Can you tell them what a CPCN is and WIR is?
Yes, a WIR is a wireless ID, a registration, and a CPN is conveyance. Sorry, let me see here. Hold on. I don't even know. I remember the acronym here. There's so many. Apologies. Give me 1 second here.
I think CPCN, is that what it is? Certificate of Public Convenience?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, and are there other questions? We do want to encourage folks, we know a lot of people may be multitasking or not comfortable coming offline, but if you want to, feel free to raise your hand and, you know, uh, uh, unmute your video and ask a question. Yeah.
Looks like we have Liliana.
Oh, yes. I'm never sure to ask questions. It's a pleasure to see you all today. My name is Liliana de Monge. I am with Unite LA, and we are the convener of the Regional Broadband Consortia for LA County. And as part of that work, we host quarterly ISP convenings with ISPs here in our region. And I'd love to know if Ms. Loy is available to present to our ISP partners about how this program works in the effort to get more ISPs to join this pilot.
Sure. If you want to send me an email, I can get your email from An, and I can reach out and we can set something up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm sure, I believe Anne has my email. Thank you.
Happy to facilitate that connection. Thanks, Liliana.
Thanks so much. I'm seeing two questions in the chat, Scott, Loy, and Lisa. One is from Cheryl: with the amount of blackout area or areas with no signals, are there plans in the near future to work on getting those areas service?
I would think that would be more infrastructure than the broadband pilot program.
I think, thanks for the question, Ms. Rushton. I think, if you want to submit that to us, we can help track that down for you. Want to understand, you know, what you mean by blackout areas and no signals. I would note that we mentioned above all that the first goal of Broadband for All is to ensure that all Californians have access to high performance broadband at homes, schools, businesses, or libraries and businesses. And so there's a lot of work that the Department of Technology is doing, putting together a statewide open access middle mile network to enable market-based entities. And federally and state funded projects to get out further into the rural and the underserved urban areas. And the Public Utilities Commission has a huge suite of programs, from the California Advanced Service Infrastructure account to the federal funding account and now BEAD. There's a lot of effort afoot there. So that's probably something that we could work offline with you on.
Thanks for that. And then one last question. I think Mr. Hackett had a follow-up question. We do have a CPCN, which is a small shop, and the information in the resolution was a little dense, and instructions of submitting an advice letter overwhelm us a little. So I think just a follow-up on his original question of if there were simple ways to approach that. If you'd like to make any last comment.
If he wants to reach out to me, I can discuss that with him.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, with that.
And I actually have there's a couple things that I wanted to point out that, because I know one of the questions, thank you for sharing, in the pre-registration questions, someone asked if Comcast or Xfinity was going to be participating in the broadband pilot. So I wanted to point out, it's good to see that they're all set up and operationally ready to go. And I also wanted to maybe highlight, because sometimes we have new folks that are coming into this process, that you guys really helped people understand last time that there's a process that providers submit the advice letter to participate, then that is reviewed, then it's approved, and then there's this process where those providers work with your third-party administrator to set up the back-end interfaces. And so there is potentially, it's not necessarily a lag time, but the process from when people are approved to when those providers are found on the website is just the natural process to get things started, correct?
Correct. You laid
Okay.
that up great. Yes.
Great. And then I think for folks, I really appreciated you for the folks that are really interested and committed to further promoting the broadband pilot, where there are providers participating in their areas. I wanted to make sure that I heard you. So a customer calls the provider and says they want to participate in the program, and then the provider lets the TPA know, and then the TPA gets back to the customer. And then did I hear that correctly?
You did. The TPA, they will confirm once, like, if their application has been approved or denied, both the customer and the service provider will get that confirmation. So they'll both know once it's complete, but then if the service provider and the customer want to connect again, they can do so. But yes, the application process, they're not applying directly to the program at this time. They actually apply through the service provider, and the service provider, basically, they get all the metadata and send that electronically to the TPA, who then processes that.
Thank you for going over that again.
Loy and Lisa, I know you have to jump soon, but I see Mr. Richard Adler has his hand up, so I just want to make sure if this is related to Lifeline. Mr. Adler, you can ask that questions before we move to the next section.
Yes, thank you. I just want to clarify something about the benefit under the program. I think I had heard you said that a person can only qualify for one of the, landline, wireless, or broadband discounts. However, when I looked on the website, it said the Lifeline broadband pilot participants can receive $20 a month discount for broadband only, or $30 a month if they bundle and have both broadband and voice. So I'm wondering which is correct.
It's still considered one service.
I
So
see.
the bundled, you can have like voice bundled in your package, but it's still, so it's either broadband standalone or a bundled, but they're both one service under the broadband pilot.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the question. And I see Rebecca Kalma with her hand up.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. Rebecca Coloma with the County of Los Angeles, Director of Digital Equity. Thank you so much for an update regarding this program. I did want to share that the County of Los Angeles is in the process of co-creating a digital equity roadmap, and many of our amazing stakeholders are actually here on this call. And part of our goals is actually promoting and ensuring that we're able to enroll residents within our region into this program. And we were wondering if your team would be interested in, perhaps once we get to that implementation phase of the roadmap, which will be probably in early to mid-July of this calendar year, would be interested in doing perhaps some type of capacity building training for our stakeholders to ensure that they have the necessary skills and also all of the necessary information to promote this program. And I'm also curious to know if, similar to the Affordable Connectivity Program, if we anticipate there'll be days of enrollment where we could all work across the state and help enroll residents as appropriate into this program.
Yes, we would be more than happy to if you want to provide if you want to provide us with contact information. We can talk and discuss your needs and see how we can assist.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your questions. I know Lloyd, Lisa, you have to jump, but I see Rich's hand up again. So Rich, if this is about Lifeline, do you mind going off mute to ask your questions real quick?
Whoops. Oh man. Still here. Okay, yeah, there it is. Sorry, I closed down. I had my head inside a spreadsheet I spaced out at the beginning of the meeting. Will this be recorded so I can review all the questions and answers about Lifeline?
Yes. This meeting is currently recorded, and we'll post the materials on our website. And I'll link it again in the chat.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks, Rich. But with that, Lloyd and Lisa, thank you so much for staying on and answering all these questions. Wonderful questions, and we'll see you again next month. Next I would like to invite our very own CDT Senior Product Lead, Ani Sen, to share with folks about the California Digital Identity Program. Ani?
Thanks, Anne. Good morning, everybody. My name is Anirban Sen. I go by Ani. I'm the Senior Product Lead here at the CDT, and I will be talking about the Digital Identity Program. Next slide, please. At the high level, our mission statement is essentially to provide every eligible person in California with easy, secure, privacy-preserving access to all of California government services digitally. And when we talk about digital identity, there's two aspects to an identity, and our statewide platform, our technology platform, is designed to prove online these two particular attributes. The first aspect of an identity is I am who I say I am. And the second aspect of it is that I have a unique attribute about me that makes me eligible for whatever benefit that I'm asking for. And we do this through a platform that we've actually built, a software platform that we've built here at the CDT. And our platform essentially first of all, it's called the California Identity Gateway, and it connects to various identity providers to prove out that first aspect, as well as various data providers that will have data on unique attributes for these individuals that are requesting these services. Next slide, please. Why do we want to do this? First of all, there's multiple value propositions for allowing for an individual to come into a state website, prove their identity, submit their application for whatever that they're asking for, and be able to do this in a time preserving, efficient manner. This also unlocks unclaimed benefits and services for Californians. It's cheaper for the state as well as for residents. We do this in a privacy-preserving, secure, and anti-fraud prevention manner. Our platform does not store any of the data. It's only used in state for the purpose of that instance, and then we delete all the data on the individual. So therefore, we're not actually storing this massive database of California identities, so to speak. We're also designed with inclusivity and equitable access in mind for all Californians. And we want to provide Californians with as many pathways as possible to access California government services. So Californians of varying abilities to prove identity, varying documentation levels to be able to still access government services. Next slide, please. So as I said, the California Identity Gateway, it's a tool that we've developed. It connects program departments like CPUC, like Caltrans, pretty much any government web application with identity providers to authenticate those applicants, as well as to data providers to get that applicant eligibility data. Some of our core principles are we're built with world-class security in mind. All of the data that's transferred through our platform is encrypted and secured. We have privacy by design. Essentially, like I said, we're not storing any of the data. We're only using the data to prove the individual's identity and then deleting it right away. We are designed with access and equity in mind, and we're built on an open platform and with transparency in mind. We ensure that we get the user's consent for every single interaction that they have through our platform. Next slide, please. So at a high level, this is how it works. We're essentially building a connection to an identity provider as well as an eligibility service. An eligibility service could be something like the VA, could be the CalFresh system, could be Medicare. An identity provider is something like a login.gov or an ID.me. That's essentially data sources that are external to our platform that stores data on the individual. So therefore, we only connect to those data sources. We don't store the data ourselves. Next slide. So to date, we've got a couple of integrations to various identity services. Namely, we have a login.gov, which is a traditional identity provider. This is where it's a federal government-owned identity provider. You can store your personally identifiable information there. We also have an identity verification service, Socure, that does not require you to store your data anywhere. It's essentially a verification service that has algorithms on their back end connecting to various data sources like credit bureaus that we will actually just pass in your PII into that platform, and it will verify and provide us with a scoring as to, hey, the individual whose PII that we've just processed is who they say they are. So that's a little different than a database where your information is stored. And then from a eligibility attribute verification process or data source perspective, we can verify veteran status through the VA. We can verify low income status. A lot of state agencies use CalFresh enrollment as a proxy for low income status. We can verify disability status, and we can also verify senior status. Our roadmap for this year, we're actually looking to integrate and expand our offering to be able to read mobile driver's licenses and on-device verifiable credentials. This will open up a lot more accessibility for folks who actually have those devices and have credentials on their phone. Next slide, please. To date, these are some of the attributes that we can verify. We can verify age based on a birth date. We don't actually release the actual birth date to the agency that's looking for it. We will simply just release the fact that you're either over 65, under 65 as a senior, or over 18, under 18 as a, like for age verification for minors. So as you can see, we don't necessarily release the full PII. We would just transform it into a claim and send it back to the asking agency. We have a connection with the VA where we can actually pass in some PII to the VA, name, birth date, and address, and they'll come back with a claim as to whether the individual is a veteran or not. And then again, we don't pass in any other PII. We just simply send the asking agency, yes, this individual is a veteran. Likewise, we can actually verify that you are in CalFresh, you are in Medicare, you are a California resident, et cetera, et cetera. And this set keeps growing as our roadmap keeps growing. So this will probably change by this time next year. Next slide. So to date, as I mentioned earlier, we have connection service integrations to login.gov, to CalFresh, to the Veterans Administration APIs, to Medicare. And then as of the most recent one that we've developed was SoCure, which is the alternative for identity verification. This actually expands our accessibility to a whole host of Californians who previously didn't have the capability to establish a login.gov account. This actually opens it up to our undocumented folks, our homeless folks, et cetera, et cetera. So this essentially just allows for folks, SoCure just allows folks to enter PII and for us to be able to verify their identity. Next slide. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the various applications that have used the statewide platform to build out these applications. The Cal ITP Benefits app is an application that's built and owned by Caltrans. They've been great partners of ours and have allowed us to expand and build out our capabilities. This application uses pretty much everything that we've built so far, all of the various capabilities of identity and attribute verification to provide discounts on transit rides to Californians that are actually riding these transit agencies. So if you go through this application and you qualify, you'll instantly get a 50% discount on any transit rides on any of these agencies. So that's one example of an application that we've used our platform to deliver services to Californians. Next slide. One that came about as a result of the LA fires last year was that we built this application to allow fire-affected individuals in the LA area to be able to very quickly replace their vital records that they may have lost in the fires. Things like birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates. We would actually be able to prove your identity through the identity gateway logging into your login.gov account, which coincidentally, if you wanted to get access to FEMA aid, you would have to establish a login.gov account. So we basically leveraged that. Essentially, this precludes you having to go in to a notary to actually get a notarized document and then send it off to CDPH in order to get your replacement birth certificate. You can actually do this completely online. So that's another example of our platform being used for in an emergency situation. Next slide. This is one of our newest applications that we've built. This was also a couple of things about this one. The MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, it's the Bay Area's administrative organization for all of the transit agencies in the Bay Area. They also manage the Clipper card. We have allowed or used our platform here to allow for 50% transit benefits on Clipper. And a couple of notable things about this application. This is our first application released where a CalFresh enrollment was used to qualify you for this for this benefit. Additionally, this application, this was the first time our platform was used in a Salesforce environment. Prior to this, everything was native web applications that were developed. This was the first one that was developed in Salesforce. Next slide. So prior to this, we'd always tested for massive scale of how we'd be able to cover a whole lot of Californians coming through. And to date, our throughput on our platform is about 4,000 requests per second. The drop application, which Marissa's just going to talk about, was actually our first massively scaled platform that we built our application on. Another thing to note is here in this application, we allowed for multiple pathways for identity proofing. We allowed for folks that have login.gov to be able to use login.gov to log in to the drop application. And then we also allowed for Socure. So this is an example of an application where multiple pathways for increased accessibility for Californians was actually put into play. And with that, I think I'm done. Then the next slide may just be questions, so I'm open up for questions here.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Ani. I'm always so excited to get a chance to interact with you and the digital identity program team. I remember we talked, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, probably, when we were doing the digital equity and BEAD planning workshops around the state. And what we consistently heard from folks is that, when it comes to broadband adoption and connecting people to low cost service offers or government subsidies like the Affordable Connectivity Program, or even accessing government benefit programs, that the enrollment processes, particularly the eligibility verification, could be analog and cumbersome. And so for the folks here, really wanting to kind of point out that there's an elegance to this solution about if you can streamline the eligibility verification, that significantly shortens it. You see less drop off from folks getting the services that they need. So just want to give you kudos and encourage people. This is really interesting. Please raise hands, ask questions. Mr. Morgan, see you have your hand up. Feel free to unmute.
Yes, I'm Eddie from Humboldt County, way up in Northern California. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. My question is, and I'm a big fan of login.gov and all those things, as a veteran, so big fan. My question is, I feel that a lot of times we have a lot of emphasis on keeping information safe and which is good. It's very, very good. But we really never have any thought of how people misuse information. And not that we'd want to go into that, but we should have some kind of mechanism that when somebody misuses information, and we seem to pay very little attention to that. Is that my misconception, or is that just somewhere that nobody wants to go to?
That's a very interesting observation. I would say, first of all, the program's mission is to provide access to Californians for government services. However, there is always a fraud prevention mindset as well, because over time, historically speaking, there's been folks without having being able to prove certain things to be able to get and misuse government funds, government benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So when we talk about providing access, we have to provide access and be able to legitimately prove and deliver services to the folks that actually need it, and prevent folks that are maybe fraudulently trying to get those benefits to be able to still do that. So it is still our responsibility is both ways. We still want to safeguard Californians, obviously the tax dollars, and make sure it goes to the right folks that need it, and be able to still deliver the benefits to those that do need it. Now, from a misusing data perspective, we've built our platform so that we're not storing any of the data that can be used, right? We are essentially just a pass-through. And all we're doing is we're facilitating the exchange of data for the purpose of whatever benefit or application is being used, right? And so therefore, from our perspective, from a technology perspective, we're always cognizant of that. And that's why we try to limit the amount of data that's even being shared back, the amount of PII that's being shared back to the asking application. Because just to give you an example, if all you need is the fact that an individual is a senior, then you don't need their date of birth. And our platform is designed in that way so that it's essentially going to take that PII, that date of birth, and we're going to do the calculation and pass back just the fact that you're a senior or you're not a senior. And that's how we limit the amount of data that can actually be shared and misused potentially, right? So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and Ani, thank you for that, because I think that that's the something that we want to underscore is that during the digital equity planning process, like when we were examining the digital equity barriers, learning about those with the community, mistrust of government and corporations was a big deal for that purpose, like not wanting to give out certain information. And the elegance, I want to make sure we underscore that, of the digital gateway is that it doesn't store PII. Essentially, what it does is it helps people in a protected way confirm that they are who they say they are, and they have the attributes to be eligible for one program by using participation in another program as a proxy for that.
Yeah.
I hope I said that correct.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. Thanks.
Got it. And so want to answer more questions. Mr. Block, I see you have a question. Is this on the digital identity program?
It's on both. Everything.
Okay. Maybe if it's a general question, let's save it to the end. We want to take specific questions on the digital equity or the digital identity programs while Mr. Sen is here. Okay.
Well, he can answer the part that deals with his program.
Okay, great. Cool.
So it has to do with reasonable accommodation to populations that are often unadvocated for. The stroke survivor. I'm a stroke survivor. I work with stroke survivors. My nonprofit works with stroke survivors. Also, I have a son who's seriously mentally ill. I do work with that population nationwide. So they're often ignored by all sorts of government and private sector programs. They don't have advocacy. So I'm just curious in general, is that a checklist? Is there a checklist when you're going through accommodations in your government program focused on seriously mental ill and stroke survivors, which are a really large segment of our population? Probably 5% of California are in one of those categories.
I can speak a little bit to what's within my scope, and then we can talk a little bit about what's outside of that scope. So, at the base, like the digital identity program is essentially about identity, which means that, regardless of, your condition, you still have an identity. You are who you say you are, and you may or may not be eligible for whatever it is that you're asking for. And if we treat it regardless of anything else, if those two attributes or those two things still hold true for you, we will still be able to serve you. Now, in terms of advocating for increased accessibility. We're constantly looking at that. We're constantly looking at, say, for example, there may be folks that cannot establish a login.gov account. A login.gov account requires you to have a picture ID, which you can upload, and they have to do facial recognition and all of those things, right? However, there's a whole host of Californians that may not be able to do that. And so therefore, we always look to expand our services, and how can we identify folks who are not able to do those things. And that's a case in point, our integration with Socure doesn't require that for the identity establishment, right? We just enter your personally identifiable information into a form. We take that data and we do some verification on our back end electronically, and it comes back with it's like a probabilistic scoring that we get that says, hey, based on the data that we received, we do believe the person is who they say they are, or they're not. And so we're constantly expanding on what we can do and the capabilities of technology. But to speak to a little bit about what the underlying application that's actually asking for these identities, how did they make their applications accessible? That's something that California statewide agencies and statewide departments are always looking to expand on accessibility, making sure that the language on the web applications are I believe it's an eighth grade level reading level, as well as multiple languages and multiple accommodations are being made for that. But that's a little bit outside of my scope, because my scope is essentially just on the identity verification, but absolutely we're thinking about those things.
Thanks, Ani. Thank you, Mr. Block, for your question. And we have time for two more quick questions, and then we got to move on to the next. So, Reina, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, it's Reina. Thank you.
Okay.
So my question is related to, just like you said, data privacy. I get that you are not storing PII in a way that could be detrimental. But two-part question. One, the partnerships that you have with these outside organizations where you are verifying identity for them, do you have a data privacy agreement with them and how they will use and store and timeliness and their usage of the data that you are sharing? And then is there any concern about data that is being shared of Californians being used for immigration type procedures? I serve a very rural and migrant community with a large population of immigrants. And so if I'm encouraging folks to use the tools available to them, I want to make sure that I'm doing that safely.
Sure. That's a great question, actually. And one thing I will state, yes, we do have an integration with login.gov, and login.gov is a federal agency, as we all know, right? And so one thing to consider is that if your web application directly decides to do an integration with login.gov, there is a scenario where now the login.gov General Services Administration of the federal government knows, hey, your particular agency is not connecting. So you've got an individual that's requesting services from your agency to login.gov. However, if you go through the California Identity Gateway, which is the statewide platform, and we connect and serve any agency statewide, as far as login.gov is concerned, all they're seeing is it's the state of California that's asking for that information, not some, localized agency that's looking for it. So there is a level of anonymity that comes from using a statewide platform like that, right? And then just from an agreements perspective, even the folks at login.gov don't have access to, because the data that's created and stored in login.gov, it's the individual's choice, right? It's a Californian's choice to store their data there. And folks at login.gov don't have access to that data. We've asked them for reports. How many Californians are signing up for login.gov? So well, we can give you an aggregate data. We can't give you individual data. So that's one thing. And then from a Socure as an identity provider, or ID.me, or whoever else we use, again, the individual makes the choice to store their data at those data repositories. And we always do our due diligence to make sure that that data is, obviously we can't say it's never going to get leaked because there's always breaches that happen, but we choose the best in class for those, the folks that the companies that we integrate with, right? And so we do our best that we can to store the data, or to make sure that the data that's stored is secure. And that's the reassurance that I can give you, right?
Okay, Ani, and Reina, thank you for the question. So Mr. Morgan, I see your hands up. If you got a quick question, and Ani, you got a quick answer, we're gonna let that, but we got to move on to our next presenter after this one. Okay.
I'll be very quick. You talked about best in class. So we talked about vetting the individual, but how are we vetting in our other organizations, and what's the process for that?
It's a little bit more detailed than a short, quick answer, but we do have our due diligence. We do constant evaluations of market and make sure that we're actually getting the best product and best integrations that we can. So, yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, and folks, for the question. And Ani, again, thanks for coming here and making yourself available to talk about this. We'd love to have you back as this evolves and, is integrated with further state applications and potentially other, non-government entities to work with them. So we appreciate you. Thank you. And back to you.
Thanks so much, Scott, and thanks, Ani, and all of our participants for asking those questions. Next, I would like to welcome Assistant Deputy Director of Public and External Affairs at the Cal Privacy Protection Agency, Marissa Rosenblatt, to share the delete request and opt-out platform, also known as DROP. And welcome, Marissa. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Anne. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm Marissa Rosenblatt, and I work at Cal Privacy. We're very lucky in California. Cal Privacy is the first and only agency in the US with full administrative powers focused solely on privacy and data protection. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the delete request and opt-out platform, or DROP, which you may have already heard about. I'll cover a little bit of background on the problem that DROP is designed to solve, how the Delete Act created the mandate for it, and then I'll walk through the consumer experience and where we stand since we launched on January 1st of this year. Next slide. So just to set the stage, every time we scroll social media, make an online purchase, or even just walk around our neighborhoods carrying our smartphones, businesses are collecting information about us. And this slide shows just kind of a sample of the sort of personal information that might be being captured at any moment. This could be, biometric information. It could be your name, your precise geolocation, purchase history, device IDs, and a lot more. Next slide. And businesses collect this information for any number of reasons. They use it to personalize, marketing, to sell things to us, to analyze our spending patterns or purchase history, or just to understand consumer behavior. And on its own, that's not necessarily, nefarious, but it can get a little bit more complicated. Next slide. So there's an entire industry that's operating largely in the background that buys and sells our information, and these businesses are called data brokers. What makes data brokers distinct is that they collect and sell personal information from consumers with whom they don't have a direct relationship. So I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you are in the market to buy a new pair of headphones. You might go onto a website, look at information about headphones, and that website is tracking, what you leave in your cart, what you're looking at, the fact that maybe you like silver headphones, or even that you might be willing to pay a higher price than another consumer for some headphones. That website can take that information, sell it to a data broker, and this data broker already may have a profile on you, and they can develop that profile based on, buying information from public records, compiling information from a number of different sources, and then they kind of supplement this profile with information about your headphone browsing. The data broker can then sell that, your profile to, let's say, a premium headphone company, and show you the next time you're on Instagram, an ad for silver headphones at a higher price than they would show maybe another consumer. So you visit one website, you never agree to share your data with anyone else, but it's now traveled through multiple hands without your knowledge. Next slide. So that example that I gave is actually relatively benign. Data brokers who collect more sensitive information, for example, medical conditions that you might be researching in conjunction with your precise geolocation or your age. Once that information starts getting sold or shared, it can really be used to facilitate much more serious harms, whether those be identity theft, fraud, stalking, AI-generated impersonations, or worse. And most consumers have no idea that this is happening. And historically, they've had no straightforward or legal way to try and stop it. It's worth noting that the California Privacy Protection Act, which is kind of California's groundbreaking privacy law, which was passed in 2018, did give consumers the ability to delete personal information collected from them, but it didn't give them the right to kind of delete information collected about them. So before the Delete Act, really consumers had no way to delete this personal information from businesses they didn't interact with directly. Next slide. So that's the problem that the Delete Act was designed to address. It was signed into law in October of 2023, and it does two big things. One, it brings transparency to data brokerage as an industry, and two, it gives consumers this right to delete the information held by data brokers, not one by one, but all at once. So as part of what's required under the Delete Act, data brokers actually register with the agency each year. As part of that registration, we collect information about their business practices, including the sorts of information they collect, they sell or share to, and a lot more. We publish that entire registry on our website. So we just released the 2026 registry this week. I encourage everyone to take a look. There's interesting information there about the 566 data brokers who are registered with California. And really that brings transparency into this industry that has historically, operated in the shadows, consumers didn't know about, and was completely unregulated. I mentioned kind of transparency, but the second part of the Delete Act is allowing, or actually requiring, our agency to build what's known as an accessible deletion mechanism that allows consumers to submit one request to request deletion of their personal information from all registered data brokers. And that's what we call now the Delete Request and Opt-out Platform, or DROP. Next slide. So this is just a kind of conceptual overview of how DROP works. It's a two-sided platform. So on one side, you have consumers who can access DROP, submit their request, and they can come back to DROP later to check the status of their request at any time. On the other side, you have data brokers who are required to access the system beginning August 1st, and then every 45 days after that, to pull down requests that are submitted by consumers, try to find a match in their kind of records. If they find a match, they're required to delete information subject to some exemptions, and then they respond back to the system with kind of the outcome of that matching and processing process. Next slide. So we launched on January 1st, pretty much from the time the Delete Act was passed until January 1st of this year. We spent a lot of time designing and developing the system. We did that in conjunction with the California Department of Technology, including the Identity Gateway team, and really a lot of teams at CDT. Designing a system of this type required a lot of careful thought. We wanted a system that was privacy protective, that was secure, and that was genuinely easy for consumers to use. So we launched on the 1st of January, and the response was pretty immediate and overwhelmingly positive. We saw over 18,000 requests submitted in just the first 2 days. And that was driven entirely by organic press coverage and local and national media. We didn't do any marketing. This was purely kind of word of mouth and press and social media. Californians were really excited to submit requests. and take control of their personal information. Next slide. So now I'll get into the 3 steps that you have to take to submit a drop request. First is verifying your eligibility as a California resident. Second is creating your profile. And third is submitting your request. Next slide. So Ani touched a bit on the California Identity Gateway. We use the gateway to verify residency. Drop is available to California residents only, and in order to prove your status as a resident, you can choose one of 2 options. The first option is to use personal information. So you would check, click that button. It would take you to a pretty simple form. You can enter your personal information. It's processed via the California Identity Gateway, and a response comes back as to whether or not you're a resident or not. The other option is to sign in or create an account with login.gov. Pretty much, same process there. You sign in, information is processed via the gateway, and Drop gets back a response indicating whether or not the individual is eligible based on their residency status. Next slide. Next is kind of filling out the request. So you enter your personal information here. The minimum that we require is name, date of birth, and zip code, but consumers can also add email address, phone number, specific device IDs, for example, the mobile advertising ID on your phone, the vehicle identification number or VIN on your car, as well as a TV ID if you have a smart or connected TV that contains one. We allow multiples of all of those identifiers with the exception of date of birth. It's also worth noting 2 things. One, this information, once it's received, is stored in a hashed format. So as soon as it's input, kind of scramble it up in non-technical terms and store it in a hashed way so that we're not, producing lists of personal information for data brokers to pull down later. And that's by design. This is a privacy protective system, and we want to make sure there's a way for data brokers to match this information without the need to access kind of information in the clear. And then second, data brokers are using this information to find you and your record in their systems. They're required to, upon locating a match, delete all the information that's held on you, subject to some exemptions, not just the information you provide. So for example, if you enter, one email address, a couple of names, and a data broker happens to find you in their system and has 5 of your past email addresses, they have to delete all 5. It's not just what you enter, it's basically anything associated with the profile that has to be deleted. Let's go to the next slide, please. Finally, you submit the request. Once done, you get an 8-digit unique drop ID, and that's an ID you can use to come back to the system at any time to view the status of your request. So to find out, which data brokers had my personal information, for those that did have it, did they delete it? And you can kind of, look back and check status at any moment. We also provide the opportunity when you're done to, view more resources, including other privacy tips, sign up for our newsletter, and provide feedback to the agency. Next slide. So as I mentioned, data brokers are kind of building integrations now. They'll be required to access Drop for the first time in August of 2026, and we'll have to respond on a rolling 45-day cycle after that. And consumers in the meantime can come back, can add or update information. For example, if you have a name change or realize you want to add another email address, to provide the flexibility for updates to be done to your Drop profile at any time. Next slide. So this is just a view of how it's been going. We're over, I think, 260 requests now since launch. This number is kind of being updated as we speak. Consumers are really excited and ready to take back control of their personal information. And the average time to complete the process is less than 10 minutes. So we really wanted to design a platform that was accessible and that was easy to use. The kind of whole premise of our mission related to privacy is we think privacy is something consumers really want, but sometimes it's too hard to do. There's not really a practical situation where I, as a consumer, would research each of the 566 registered data brokers, contact each of them individually, make a request to have my information deleted. That would take me, days upon days to do. And so again, our theory is if we make it simple, consumers will do it. And I think based on these numbers, we've seen so far that's been true. Next slide. And then here's just a couple of bits of feedback from Californians who've accessed the system since launch. I think it's helpful to kind of keep this in mind because again, this is why we're here. We want to make privacy easy. I especially like the second quote on screen, very helpful. I was even able to go on my TV and change ad settings. So I think that's nice to share because it shows, one, this is, a service that Californians are excited to have. And also there's kind of like a halo effect of learning more about different privacy, tips, learning more about the fact that you have ad settings that you can control and really trying to empower consumers to understand that, control over their personal information is something we think that they should have. And Drop is just kind of one manifestation of that goal. Next slide. So this is the final slide, and I just wanted to leave you all with some resources. We've made it really easy for you to share the word with your communities and organizations. We're kind of actively publishing and adding resources to our website at privacy.ca.gov/share drop. There's video. There are kind of canned social media posts you can copy paste, including graphics. There's blurbs you can put into a newsletter. And so we really wanted to make it easy for people to get the word out. This is available to all California consumers, and we'd really appreciate your help letting more and more people know. I think that is all for me. I will pause there and see if there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Really appreciate you coming and sharing that. The main focus of Broadband for All obviously is to connect the unconnected and the underconnected. And so part of it is we want to empower folks to experience the social and economic benefits of being connected. But folks are always, because these are mostly vulnerable populations, wanting to also help protect folks that we connect from the negative harms. And I think Drop is a really good tool because I was going to say, so, I can barely go to my Gmail account anymore because it's just filled with spam. And I constantly get, weird calls on my phone. If I do Drop, you will, it's easy to do. Request will go to all 568 data brokers, and the request to drop me will occur not just once but multiple times. Is that what we heard, like on a monthly basis?
That's right. On a rolling 45-day basis, data brokers have to re-access the system, and they're required to manage like a suppression list, it's called essentially. So if they match your information, they keep that in their records and kind of make sure that if it kind of comes in again and they recognize you, that they don't let it back into the system. So that's part of the requirement as well for ongoing deletion.
Because my wife did Drop, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm clearing out my email," and she said, "I did Drop 2 weeks ago, or and it hasn't done anything." Well, it's because the request started in August. Is that correct?
So that's right. The obligation by data brokers doesn't take effect until August 1st. That's just the way the kind of law was written. So January 1st, the system went live, and then there's this kind of period in between that's designed to allow data brokers to kind of build the integration, kind of get up and running. This is a brand new system for not just California, but really for the nation, if not the world. So there's some time kind of built in to make sure that everyone can get on board.
Got it. Great. Well, the team is letting me know we're short on time, so I would ask that individuals with their hands up ask very quick questions, and only if they're on Drop. And then Marissa, try to be short with your answers. So, Mr. Block, your hand was up.
Thank you very much. This has to do with who's included. Are the MAG 7 included? If they're collecting data they're using within their own entities, these are huge organizations, but they're not often looked at as just a data broker because they're much more than a data broker, but they are data brokering within their organization as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. So data brokers are required to register. We kind of put out the definition of what a data broker is, right? It's any business who collects and sells information from consumers with whom they don't have a direct relationship. The onus is on the business to self-identify as meeting that definition and then to do the registration. So, we believe that there are more than the 566 who are registered that haven't registered. We separately have, an enforcement division of the agency. There's actually a data broker strike force, and part of their goals include, helping ensuring that businesses who should be registered do. So I guess the short answer to your question is the registry is online. You can kind of view who's in there now. We think that there should be more, and we're actively trying to encourage more and more businesses to register if they meet the criteria of a data broker.
And is there a way for a consumer to pursue some methodology to take initiative to push some administrative proceeding to include?
Mr. Block, there's other people that have their hands up, and we want to make sure we get multiple questions. We'll have to take that one offline. Mr. Adler, you're next. Please, quick question. Marissa, quick response.
It's Richard Adler. I'm with the Santa Clara County Digital Inclusion Work Group. Two quick questions. First of all, assuming that I'm not ready to drop out, but is there any way to find out what kinds of information data brokers are holding on me? And the second question is, am I correct in assuming this will not affect credit rating services, which provide a vital function for ensuring that credit is available?
Very good questions. The quick answer to both. So for the first one, you within Drop won't see exactly what information the data broker deletes kind of on a per identifier basis. This is kind of our first kind of foray into understanding what they do collect and where the matches might occur. But you can view kind of what a data broker reports that they collect in general. So you can kind of do the math there of here's a data broker, they collect this, they deleted my information. They may have had these categories based on what they reported. To your second question, that's another great point, which is entities who collect information that's covered under other laws. For example, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is related to kind of credit decisioning, HIPAA, or another, I'm blanking now, but there's a third. That data can be exempt. So if I am a data broker who also is covered by, FCRA, which is for credit reporting, to the extent that that information is covered by FCRA, it won't be deleted. And this is quite complex. The businesses are kind of managing data flows that, again, are pretty opaque still to the average consumer. And so they're not required to delete that, but we're starting to kind of learn where deletions might occur and what the impact of those deletions might be.
Thank you, Mr. Adler, for your questions, and everyone obviously stays tuned. It's iterative. Last question, Mr. Boyd. Thank you for waiting.
No problem. Good morning to all. I'm going to have to readjust all my clocks again to make sure I'm here at the 10:30 start versus the later.
Sorry, Mr. Boyd, we're like really behind schedule. Can you just answer?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Certainly. As was stated, the information that goes to the drop is in a hash format, so it's scrambled. To that, then my question obviously is, how do the data brokers know to chase down our additional emails and or information if in fact information is in a hash format? So how do they know it's me that signed up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So every data broker has their own kind of database structures and processes, but the high level process would be, I'm a data broker, I pull down a list. Let's say I pull down a list of emails that are hashed. I follow kind of our system hashing protocol to, take my list of emails, hash them, and then I do a match to basically see, are any of the hashed emails on my list the same as the hashed emails on Drop's list? If so, locate all of the data held on that consumer. And so the data broker basically keys off of email, they'll find your information and do it that way. If they have a database that, keys email to name, they could do it that way. It really depends on their system. But this is meant to be kind of a key that they use to locate the consumer in their records and then delete all relevant information based on that mapping, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. Well, Marissa, really excited about the work of Drop and love that it's collaborating with the digital identification program as well. Folks, all this information will be posted online. And Marissa, we're going to have to ask you back, given this is going to be an iterative process. Next, we wanted to we're going to consolidate and go through the next number of informational sessions and ask questions at the end. So Sean, you're up.
Sounds great. Great. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all again. I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of update you on where we are with the resource finder. So Ricky, if you want to move to the next slide. Just in case we have any new folks here, just a reminder that the goal for the Resource Finder is to develop an online tool to help CBOs, nonprofits, and digital inclusion practitioners support the community members and the residents that they serve by creating a single source location for all of the statewide digital inclusion services. And that includes helping them to identify where low-cost internet service providers might be, where digital navigation services might be, where they might be able to locate, low-cost devices and hotspots. And so working with a lot of people here on the call and the partners, we are excited about where we are. Next slide, Ricky. Excuse me. And so this is really just a snapshot of the data that is included in the Resource Finder. To date, we have received responses from organizations that serve residents and other organizations. So over 206 organizations responded to providing residential services and 168 to organizational ones for total locations of 867. So we're thrilled about the volume of services being provided that are identified here. So we can go to the next slide. Really, excuse me, I know. These are some new features like mapping functionality and the ability to update your resource, really fuzzy logic so that you can really do your own keyword searches, and the ability to filter in person versus virtual. So really thrilled about some of the additional functionality that this new enhanced version provides. And we can go to the next slide. And so we are thrilled to announce that this resource finder is live on the portal right now. So it went live yesterday. That QR code there will take you to the new one. It is located on the Broadband for All portal and will be housed there. So we encourage everybody here to go take a look, give it a try. And we can go to the next slide. And again, as we mentioned, there is both the mapping functionality, which is the one image on one side, as well as a tabular view, which is the image on the other side. That just gives you kind of a screenshot of being able to filter by location, service type, residential or organizational services, and whether it's virtual or in person. So again, if you were to go to the website, this is what you would see. And it does default to the map view, but we're thrilled to have both functionalities. And on the next slide, maintaining and keeping resources up to date and fresh is really important to this. So encouraging individuals and on this call, if your organization is not on there, feel free to actually go to the portal. There is a button at the top that says add your organization. You can add it at any time. If your organization happens to have more than 5 locations, reach out to us. We can give you a bulk upload form and support you in that process. But the more organizations that we have listed on there, the more user-friendly it is and valuable it is for the community. But also, if your organization is on there and something changes, maybe you have a new location or you're providing additional services or your email address changes, there's a button at the top on the portal as well that says update or maintain your resource. And so you can click on that at any time as well and maintain and keep your record on the resource finder fresh and up to date. And again, that QR code will take you to the portal link. And then I think on the last slide, um, we're happy to do demos for anybody that might, if you're part of a coalition or consortium or a large organization, happy to go do a demo of the new tools, so people within your organization can learn how to use it, access it. I'm happy to be part of that. So we're thrilled. This resource finder is up there. Thank you for everybody who partnered in the development of this. This was really created with community and for community, and we're thrilled to be able to have this available for everybody. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to James, who is CDT's Broadband Administrative Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Sean introduced me. Great. So as I previously shared, we currently have an open solicitation seeking innovative ideas to address 7 challenges aligned with the SDEP and DE plan seen here. We recognize there are strong interest in potential customer outcomes and what tools and resources may become available through these partnerships. This solicitation is intended to respond to input we received during the development of the digital equity plan, including surveys and feedback from communities of practice. By exploring innovative partnerships and approaches that could help identify and bring forward tools and resources to support statewide digital inclusion efforts. Because this is an active and open procurement, we're limited in what we can share right now to ensure fairness and maintain integrity. But once partnerships are finalized, we'll be able to share more about the expected outcomes, timelines, and any tools and resources that are available. Until then, we have to keep it high level. We can go next slide, please. And so again, here's just a snapshot of the full timeline. We're hoping to have contracts awarded in the second quarter of this year. That concludes my update. I'll pass it to Araceli.
Thank you so much, James. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm here to share some grant opportunities. Next slide, please. The first grant deadline that's quickly approaching is the Tribal Technical Assistance Program. The deadline here is April 1st, and eligibility is specific to California tribes and tribal consortia to improve voice and broadband access and planning. Both the broadband adoption account and the broadband public housing account have a deadline of July 1st, so there's still some time there to apply. Next slide, please. Next, we have some program updates that are specific to the broadband infrastructure account. These grants are to subsidize the cost of the last mile broadband infrastructure and related middle mile, for communities that are not currently served. The new deadline here is October 1st, and we did include a QR code on the bottom right-hand corner for you to use and read through the letter with the timeline adjustments. Next slide, please. We also want to inform everyone about the annual workshop that's taking place on April 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2:30. It is a live workshop, but they are holding a remote virtual access. And again, to join, feel free to use the QR code on the bottom right-hand corner to get more information. And we will be having these slides available as well. Next slide, please. And we do want to continue to remind folks that there's a notice of funding opportunity for the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program that is still pending. It's supposed to be launching this spring, and we will continue to make any updates as they become relevant during these presentations. Next slide, please. And to wrap up, as a follow-up to CETF's presentation at the last Community of Practice, we want to share that there are 2 tracks of listening sessions that are taking place throughout the month of March and April. One track is for digital inclusion, and the other one is for small businesses. Again, feel free to use the QR codes for the respective tracks to register and to learn more information. Thank you all, and I'll go ahead and pass the mic back over to Anne.
Thanks so much, Araceli. And just want to let folks know some of the links Araceli mentioned is in the chat. So if you couldn't QR code it then, please take a look at the chat. And for my portion, just a quick look ahead. Again, we've been summarizing, next slide, please, Ricky. Summarizing your feedback. And thank you again for the thoroughness. We hope we're meeting your expectations to address broadband adoption and accessibilities requests. We're also looking at your request topics on engaging healthcare entities, as well as accessible technology services. So just a few that you can review on your own time. And next slide are some of the requests for future speakers we have noted here, and we'll make sure to review it for future sessions. Next slide, please. And just letting you know, we will have CPUC Broadband Lifeline program speakers on future calls. So wanting to make sure that is an expectation that can be met. In terms of community feedback, we're summarizing improvements on the left and comments on the right. So again, some of the improvements we're seeing is to include more Lifeline, real-time captioning, have more follow-ups, and many of you have even asked for more meetings. So wanted to, raise that. Some of the comments, thank you so much for your kindness and positive feedback on what we have been doing well. We will continue to bring subject matter expert, and thank you for recognizing UCSB and Sunny being our speakers last time. And with that, next slide. Some future meeting dates. I know it's a lot, but in order of it's happening, many of you mentioned wanting to hear more about infrastructure updates, middle mile, last mile. I wanted to guide you to the Middle Mile Advisory Committee meeting that happens on a quarterly basis. This upcoming one is on Friday, April 17th. I'll make sure to link it in the chat. And then our California Broadband Council meeting is taking place the Friday after that on April 24th. Both are taking place hybrid, so in person at the Sacramento County Administration Center and also via Zoom. And for our upcoming community practice, you may have seen this list of dates in the past. Our upcoming one is on Thursday, April 30. So if you have registered for this meeting, you'll get a reminder to register for the upcoming meetings as well. And next slide. I know we're just a little bit over time, but want to raise a few quick key website. That is our Broadband for All portal, where everything that we've been talking about is updated and maintained on a regular basis. You can contact us as Broadband for All at state.ca.gov and sign up for our monthly email update using the QR code. I know I jump ahead, but happy to answer any questions that you all may have either in the QA or if you feel free to raise your hands. I know Scott is still here and some of our presenters are still here to answer your questions.
I know, thanks for acknowledging that we are over time, because I think that's one of the feedback people gave us is to be on time, and we're working on that. But we know we went through Sean, James, Araceli, and Ann's information quickly. So for those of you who are still here, if you do have any questions or comments, we can take those right now.
I'm not seeing any hand raised or any in the chat. Oh, Cindy McCartney, please come on mute.
So chat's not enabled right now. I just wanted to say thank you for all this information. And I was wondering if the links that are in this chat are going to be provided with the digital recording that you post online.
Yes, they are. All of our slides have the QR code, and we hyperlink where the text indicates. So yeah, yes on both.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Yeah, and Cindy, thank you. And we'll further reiterate that just a common practice with everything we do, the video recording, the meeting minutes, the links, and the presentations will all be up on the Broadband for All portal in the past events section.
And I'll add that link again in case it was missed earlier. Thank you for the 57 folks who are still here. If you have any questions at all, feel free to come off mute and ask, or type in the chat now that it's open. Oh, Cherry.
Hi, thank you. Quick question. With the drop resources, I wanted to include some of the items from their toolkit, but everything was only in English. Is there other items that I'm specifically looking for Spanish to include in our communication?
I'm trying to see if Marissa's still on, but she may have to hop. We will send your question to her, Cherry, and perhaps we can connect you via email.
Yeah, Sherry, send us an email. We'll follow up with Marissa and see if we can forward any other in-language materials for you. And I see a question from Hannah Sternberg about the SDEP R5 squared. I am going to just summarize. Yes, we did talk about that. James Spencer, whose team is working on it, said they're going through the process. They've identified some very interesting potential partnerships and are looking forward to moving those expeditiously. And can't really talk about that process until it's over. You bet. Okay, Anne.
Well, if there's no more questions, I know I'm stalling in case folks are just, typing in the chat. But with that, thank you all for attending this month community of practice meeting. And you'll have all these materials posted on past events and a thank you email that would link you right to it. So again, thank you for your participation and we'll see you next month. Have a great week. Bye all.